Ben,
What?
what's it like being a roadie for Karhu?
It's cool. Why?
Expound, tell me more.
You're a dick.
I am not a dick, you're a dick. What do you think the dynamic of the team? You know, do you think it's a good dynamic?
How did we meet?
Well, we met at college, RFDC in Colford. That was about, 3-4 years ago? Possibly even longer. You didn't like me very much when we first met. I didn't like you very much either. We didn't get on at all.
I can understand why.
Yeah, it all makes sense. And you know that's always a mistake. Everyone will always tell you
It's
that's
not
a
always
mistake.
a mistake.
In what circumstance would that not be a mistake?
If the maximum...
Mexican.
No, not the Mexican. If the maximum quantity was 2 tits, I would pick 2 tits over one tit.
Wait, what? Your, personal approach to recording. Let's talk about that for a second.
Alright.
So, the way in which you would approach recording a song.
Well, most of the time, the riffs have been written so that I just noodle around with my guitar. I don't have any set goals to say when starting to write a song. It just happens. It's all pure. Well, every song is an accident.
So, tell me your life story.
I was born in Gloucester, which is the nearest city from here. Grew up here, lived in the same house my entire life. Just gone through some changes as standard for houses, I guess. Then moved more into sports and shit like that. Then when I was about 12 to 14, I think it was 14. When I was about 14, my dad had a guitar, and I kind of inquired about who owned it, and I just fucking stole it essentially and started playing it. Then after playing that for a while, I met Ollie in college, moved on to meeting Oscar on an internet forum, and there you go. That's my life story so far. I guess I could chuck in the really cheesy shit about meeting my fiance on chat roulette, because I mean that really does literally put it into the aspect of wading through a shit ton of dicks before you find the right person for you.
Was it tough finding a bassist that could fit into a role that had kind of already been filled by Joe's guitar playing?
Sort of, yeah. It was a bit, because it was a style that we had been essentially having to write around, because for the entire time up till then we hadn't had a solid bassist.
And how long was that period of time?
4 years maybe, somewhere around there. And because of that we had recorded down bass tracks ourselves, to what, just as a general idea around the tracks, and then having a bassist come in and learn them and sort of adapt them in his own way it'd be difficult for anyone, I think.
Yeah.
You know.
So Morris, how did it feel being put into a situation where you had to pick the supposed normal life over the dream chasing one at this point?
Well, it was kind of a lame decision to have to make, but I've got a small child, and I just moved into a new house with my girlfriend, so I had to pick the old working ways job instead of the cool ways, playing music and stuff all the time.
You're still cool, Morris.
No, lame now, lame.
So Morris, how was the tour experience for you?
It was pretty damn good, really. Yeah, there was no real low points, really. It was, well, apart from it finishing, but apart from that, it was real good. Yeah.
Well, it was finishing the entire time because Oscar was there. But So Morris, what was it like swapping from guitar to bass?
It sucked. It sucked epically. I really don't like playing bass so much because I just suck at it. Guitar is so much easier.
So Oscar, first I wanted to ask you about like the way in which you and Joe create and record music. I think like for me it seems to be a really sort of unique dynamic between the way that you sort of just do everything over the internet as opposed to being in the same room jamming songs, discussing just like a riff at a time. You write like a whole song and then send it to the other one and you just sort of tinker with each other's stuff from there. I think it's quite unique. Like, how do you feel about it? Do you think it's unique to you, or do you think it's quite a widely done thing?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily call it unique in the sense that I know I didn't name any like from the top of my head, but like I know people who have done it before. I don't know if they've done it on the same scale as we have, but like I don't find it unique. But it's kind of weird explaining how this band works to people who aren't like familiar with it, as in like how do we practice and stuff like that. So that's kind of weird, but I wouldn't say it's unique.
Look at all this power.
Nearly as much as Karhu. Nearly.
More.
Nah.
Look, Karhu very good, but this is like
You would have found my laugh so hilarious.
stupid.
Dude, you can-
about 13, I got my first drum kit and started taking drum lessons in a drum centre. And then it was great because I could take it home, and my stepdad built me a practice room. But it was in the garage and there was no windows or ventilation or anything like that. And I painted it all black and covered the walls with carpet and all sorts of things, which led to too much heat in band practices more than anything. But that led to me starting to teach myself as opposed to taking the drum lessons. And I started to join little school bands and bands at college, things like that. And then eventually I met Joe at college, and from then on we started making music, and our band name kept changing and things like that, and the lineup kept changing. And then we arrived at just the right lineup, which was me, Joe, Oscu and Matt Morris. But unfortunately Matt Morris has recently had to leave. But that's sort of where we are now at Karhu.
Production value and musicianship. Which is more important to you?
Wow. I think nowadays I'm gonna kind of I think I got a good answer for this one. I won't have to commit. I think these days that production has become part of musicianship, especially with the opportunity to, do it yourself and like I said, manipulate affordable digital audio workstations and recording platforms. So I think that's become part of a responsibility of the musician or the creative person that's trying to get their idea out there. But I know several recordings that I have that I love, because I grew up in an era where the technology wasn't as pristine and everything wasn't so under the microscope. Some terrible recordings, but the quality of the musicianship and the passion come through.
Have you ever been on Chat Roulette, Jackson?
Yeah,
How many dicks did you wade through?
there were more dicks than people.
More dicks.
Far more penises than faces.
And more dicks on Chat Roulette than in the Pope's cloakroom.
at least 4 more dicks, I would say. I'm gonna make a statement, and I want you to tell me if you agree or disagree with it, okay?
Okay.
Production value is as important as musical content.
Well, if you don't want to stand out for the wrong reasons, it is as important. That's my take on it.
So, how marketable would you say that Karhu are?
About as marketable as trousers. So, talk to us about your mental state. How do you stay really in the zone when it comes to playing drums?
A mixture between just a lot of practice, a good diet, and meditation.
The music video for B-Vera. Not being able to be sort of a big part of that as much as we would have liked you to. How did you feel about the finished product?
That was a nice pun.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. Well, obviously, given my circumstances when recording that stuff, I'm not happy with my footage at all. But the overall reception for the music video seems to be alright, so I guess that works, but I'd rather have it done the next time we're doing a music video. I'd rather actually be there and not in a fucking bedroom with the blinds off and my phone camera.
So, Fiona, your website is called mudmilk.com.
Correct.
Could you just tell us a little bit about what your website does?
it offers hosting for people who want to have an internet presence. They want to have their own website, and we can provide the hosting space on the server for that.
That's great. What's it like for you being linked with Karhu and stuff? Has it been a good experience for you so far and stuff?
Be honest.
Answer honestly.
So far, I've not personally had a lot of dealings with the band as such, only with Joe. So far, the sponsorship hasn't really brought in a lot of revenue for us, but early days.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've known Joe since he was a very young lad. He was friendly with my son, and they went off to different secondary schools, so lost touch. And a few months ago, they got in touch again, and Joe started to come down basically to see his mate. And we just started talking because I'd known him as a little boy, and he was telling me about this band he had, and he needed so much money for this and so much money for that. And at the time I was starting up my own company, and I just said, well, I'm sure we could do something to help. And that's really how it came about. And then Joe started coming up with all the bills. So we had to work out a figure of how much it would be sponsored for.
So let's talk about tour.
Right.
What was tour like for you? Did you like being here in England for maybe the second or third time in your life and sort of travelling around the whole place playing all these gigs? What was that like, that experience as a whole?
Well, at first I was terrified. Like, first of all, I was away from home for 3 weeks, a bit more than that actually, and I had a girlfriend, so that hit me pretty hard. And then there were like the financial aspects of it, which didn't quite mesh that well as I would have like hoped with my life back then. But those were like the initial feelings. But when we actually had done the tour, well, even during the tour, like all of that vanished. I think you could say I was in the zone, so to say. Like, yeah. It was so exciting and new, like all of it. A big part of it was actually like seeing Britain, like all the like cities and bars and different accents people have. Like Wales, that was insane. Like the Welsh accent, it reminds me heavily of like a really heavy Russian accent. It was hard as hell to like understand.
Yeah.
But yeah, like looking back to the tour, I'd say it was one of the best experiences I've had so far in my life in terms of music. Well, even like outside of music, even. So definitely don't regret it.
Nice.
I'm actually quite like apprehensive about it.
So yeah, Chris.
Yeah?
Just to kick it off.
Yeah.
You're a photographer.
Well, yeah.
You've been photographing for how long?
Fucking hell, probably about 4 or 5 years, probably now. Yeah, probably about 4 or 5 years. But I've always had like a camera in my hand growing up, anyway. So.
Cool.
So,
so from a photographer's perspective, like, are Karhu an interesting subject, an interesting thing to take images of?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's can be a bit of a struggle, like with lighting conditions, but without getting too technical and boring. You know, they are a great band to photograph. You know, their shows are pretty fucking awesome, pretty lively. So there's always lots of interesting things going on to take photographs of. So yeah, I'd say definitely. Yeah, definitely.
So the tour experience was a good experience for you then?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's the first time I've done any of this kind of photography before, so it's a new learning experience for me. So, and yeah, it's been wicked. So even if you know the photos may look a bit dodgy, you know, I've learned so much from this experience. So
Yeah.
you know, I can go on and sort of develop the pictures even more if my ability allows me to.
I think the only thing that was a real shame was that, you know, after going on an entire tour for 2 weeks and taking thousands of pictures, we didn't get a single usable one.
That's because you're a prick, don't you? So I mean, some people have expectations which are so unrealistically high that, you know, everyone's just going to fail them. So. Your face, Joe.
Hello, I'm unfortunately Joe's dad, otherwise known as the Glove. I'm the guy who's doing the admin work for the band, and basically bought him his first guitar.
So, Mark, I want to ask you about tour. You drove the van for tour. You drove us all around for a couple of weeks, and I just wanted to know from your perspective what it was like to have us, you know, live in your house for that period of time and to be with us like all day, every day for like 2 weeks. What was that like for you?
Everybody was okay till you fucking asked how we were, you twat! Jesus! Can I just say, if anybody gets too much in the van, they're going to be gaffer tape, gagged and bound and chucked on the gear in the back, alright?
Stressful. No, it was actually a bore. I mean, it's been 15 years since I last road managed anybody. So it was a bit like going back in time. But as you'll be aware, we've got a great crew. Yourself and Chris the photographer and all the lads at Alto, Ben and everybody. And I think we had a ball. We got organised. I did the band chats before we kicked off, trying to let you guys have the benefit of my experience, which you all thought was complete rubbish. But after, I think it was the third gig, where you wanted to party every night till 3 in the morning, and that was followed by an 8 o'clock start to get down to a radio station in South Wales, and everybody was dying. I think the basic rules that, or the basic operational function that I tried to convey started meaning something. We definitely saw an improvement through the course of the tour. We've got a work ethic going, and it was a great team to be with for 2 weeks.
So, Oliver, there's been no end to the requests for another fantastic story from you. Your fiction work is just unbelievable. Right from The King Reign of Oliver Davis Gower, The Best Human in Earth, I believe is the subtitle. Would you like to swindle another story for us, telling us about how you're heavily involved in the writing process, and the band would be absolutely fucked if you left?
Well, on a nice hot summer's day, I like to come down to the ice-cold refreshment of the studio. There, Joe will present me with what him and Oscar have written. There, I like to experiment with different rhythms, and when we find the best part, we come upstairs and rewrite it like gentlemen. Yes.
So you were talking about like previous experience with touring and gigging with bands and stuff. Like, where did all that start, and how long did you do stuff like that for?
I toured with the Albion band for 5 years. I worked with the jazz guy Alan Oldsworth, did 2 European tours with Alan. Engineered at festivals like mainly Shetland, mainly folk festivals and jazz. Shetland Folk Festival. I did the Avalon stage at Glastonbury. Toured with various bands across Europe. Did Germany, Italy. Been up into Finland, Denmark, all those sort of places. So generally speaking, for about 5 or 6 years, I had the time of my life. And that went on. I had my own PA business then. And I suppose really for about 9 or 10 years, I worked as a professional sound engineer. And that's the background of it, really.
So, when first listening to Karhu, was there anything that stood out for you?
I think besides the musicianship itself, was just the the quality, the sonic quality of the recording. I think it's a great example of the opportunity that's presented itself to young musicians, that they can, you know, if they're chasing that creative goal, that they have the opportunity to record and capture that sound that may be in their heads, with today's technology that's become readily affordable for, you know, the common man, so to speak.
Do you have emotions in Finland? Is that something that you guys have?
Well, you could say we lack some emotions. Like, anger is really prevalent, but like happiness and stuff like that, no.
Stop laughing.
That's a hard one, because you can't, I mean, like, emotions in playing, I don't really feel emotions when listening to music on my own, or playing music on my own. But when it's a live situation, it's a different kind of thing altogether. Like, some of the solos I've written for our debut album, like, when playing those solos live, it's a completely different thing than like tracking them in my bedroom. So, I don't know, maybe it's the people more than the actual notes. As in, like, the people are that make the solos emotional, not necessarily how they're written.
I guess if we're in a different place 5 years from now, but a different place up, then I guess that would answer the question of what people feel about it. But if we're still in the same place, I don't know, maybe we're doing something wrong, or we're just not that good. You used to smack it straight down, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Down.
And now what?
Now I've sort of switched it, so it's a bit more that way.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
coming in
Can,
more
do
diagonal.
that one about 5 times in a row?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
It's more like that, especially with the snare.
Yeah.
Sort of.
This is something I've been fucking struggling with for the last 10 years of my fucking life, right? What, can anyone work out what the fuck is wrong with these cups of teas? Okay? One has milk, one doesn't. That's fine, that's down to personal preference. One of them is full to the brim. One of them is half fucking empty. Can you explain that to me all? Why do you always make my tea half fucking empty? If anything, I make you full cups of teas and you don't even finish drinking them, and I always finish drinking mine. Why? Does it make you feel more fucking accomplished that I've finished a cup of tea that you've made for me, or are you just being a fucking asshole?
Well, it's more a case of I allow a space for milk in every cup of tea, naturally.
Our drummer allows a space here for milk when I haven't had milk in my tea for what, a fucking year now?
More than that.
More than that. More than a year? So is this the invisible tea? Like the invisible milk that kind of goes in top? Do you just account for that? Or is it just in case one day when I'm sat in my fucking bedroom, you know, some milk is accidentally going to come out of one of your fucking multiple ego teats and just fill the cup up and not overflow?
I've topped it now with air, okay? Air is underrated. Just enjoy it. Air's good for you.
Air is not fucking... Oh, it's true, actually.
Yeah.
I don't have a choice of air. Stop oppressing me with your fucking power trip.
Fucking awesome on sound. Just everyone. We don't know Freeburg! Fuck you! We do know this framework anyway! We can play this though. Yeah, didn't think you wanted that. Yeah. See, that's why we don't play anything except our stuff, because it doesn't work.
Once once you get up to speed, it's more sort of that sort of job. See what I mean?